What's goody Hawk Squad? Today we are doing a review of controllers, all the way from basic PS4 controllers up to pro gamer controllers. We will be reviewing everything from my opinion and what I think is best for Warzone and first person shooters. Let's get into it. So, PS4 controller with Sony back pedals. Very well made product in my opinion. Nice LED screen, looks like very well made materials. Nice mouse click feel to it. It very easily just clicks in, clicks out of your controller, ready to go. Easy as that. No setup, no software needed. To program it, it has three settings. You can click it on and you can tab between three different presets. So you can use it for Warzone, Apex, Fortnite, whatever you want, and change different mappings to these buttons for different games, which is a very nice thing. I find it's a very good product, very well reliant on quality, as Sony does. PS4 DualShock. Most cost-effective version as well, forgot to say that. Moving on to option number 2, which is the next cheapest option. Standard PS4 DualShock again, but this time with the Strikepack and a dual, what do you call it, analog stick extension. Personally, not a big fan of this. I find the Strikepack is made out of very cheap looking materials. It's extremely light. The paddles on the back are very long and thin plastic. Feel that it would wear out over time. And it just doesn't fit very well for me in my hand. So where I hold my controller is just the standard way you hold it. I don't have any fancy grips or anything. Hold it like this, and I want my buttons to be about here. And all the way down here, which my fingers barely reach. So I've got to shuffle down, hold it here, which is awkward. I can barely reach my analog sticks. Not a fan of the placement. And they're very flimsy. I feel like if you dropped your controller, it would break. To get it on, very easy. Clips out. It's got a little clip in the front. Clip that out, and it just slides on and off where you'd plug in to charge your controller. Clicks on there. Flip this up, and it clicks into the little speaker in your controller, like so. I feel that that would break over time. It's got just tiny little bits of plastic to clip in there. Not terribly made. This doesn't look the best for me, personally, as well as the fact it can be used to cheat with inbuilt cheats, which I've never used and never will use. And just in case it ends up in the comments that you think I am using it, just go and look at any of my gameplay and you'll see why I'm not using it.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Other than that, we have the stick extension for finer control, which are only a few pack, totally separate from the Strikepack, by the way. This is a totally different product. Personally, I don't like it. It clicks on perfectly well, doesn't fall off. You can slap it around, doesn't come off. Good product, well made. Grip isn't that grippy. They come in different heights. They're not that expensive, so feel free to try it out if you want. Its idea behind it is making little tiny fine adjustments. It's just a longer lever, so you only need to push it to get finer adjustments. Personally, I find it's too high. If I'm holding my controller, my thumb doesn't really get on top of it, and it kind of ends up at the back, and I don't use it. I take them off. That's option number 2, the least recommended option, and second most expensive. Option number 3, standard Xbox controller, but this one has inbuilt buttons on the back. So much similar to the DualShock controller, standard materials. It's got a little bit of a textured grip, kind of similar to the PS4 one. I find this one here's got a little bit more texture to it, so it's a little bit more grippy. I do like that the buttons are inbuilt. They're not an extra attachment. So, say your controller's died and you're replacing it, you don't need to go and replace the attachment as well if you wanted to go to Xbox. It's the same price as a standard controller. Easily done. Side note, has a little screenshot button. Very easy for making thumbnails if you're a content creator. Other than that, Everything else is standard. The analog sticks are a little bit more concave than the PS4, which I find is a little bit easier for aiming. My thumbs kind of lock into it a little bit, and it's got a little bit more of a textured grip, which is nice. Other than that, it's just fairly standard, but better than because it has back pedals, obviously. Option number 4, the big expensive Xbox Elite Series 2. Very good product. Very expensive product though, so maybe it isn't for everybody. It is quite a big investment just into gaming. Is the most expensive option here, but it does come with by far the most attachments and customizability as well as quality. This crap out of the way. For example, the moment you hold it, you feel it's a lot heavier. So it's a little bit heavy. You definitely notice it when you first use it, but it's very well made. Nice rubbery grips, top and bottom, stippled. The analog sticks, very grippy rubber. Now it comes with this box one, which you can store your controller in to keep it nice and fresh and dust free, as well as a whole set of different analog sticks, so different textures, different heights. So for example, if you wanted, instead of getting a attachment that just clicks into the top of your analog stick like the PS4, which just clicks over top, this one is an inbuilt one part, and it just simply, the magnetic pops off, next one fits in, and it's securely in there. So now you've got a high analog stick for aiming. Personally, I don't use it, that's just because I don't like high analog sticks, but it has a whole bunch of options of short ones as well, different textures, slightly different shapes, etc, etc. Very nice. While we're on the analog sticks, comes with this tool. Simply stick that in there, and you can adjust the tension it takes to push your analog sticks from side to side. Doing so gives you a little bit more back pressure, a bit more input into your controller. For controlling recoil, I find is a lot easier. So I've got mine dialed up to the maximum. Got the very hardest, highest setting of pressure. So the lowest setting is just the standard, then you got intermediate and high pressure. So instead of it, for example, standard Xbox controller, slaps around very easily. This one here, you can see it's taking just slightly more pressure. Not a big difference. Moving on to the triggers. This one here is the only controller with adjustable triggers. So as you can see, very small movement. Which means you can get to the trigger faster than people on a standard controller. For comparison, standard Xbox, got to press it all the way down there. You can see it'll take a few more milliseconds. Not a huge difference, just gives you the slight competitive edge when you're talking in a very competitive game. And you can adjust it. It has 3 settings. This is the fastest. Moving on to the back pedals. Very well made, nice material, and removable. Pull it forward, and they come out. You only want to have 2. I do have all 4 in. I don't really use the bottom 2 all that much. So you can have both fingers on it in a nice position, very user-friendly. I find the top 2 are easy to use, and I use that 99.999% of the time. Don't really use these. Sometimes I press them by accident, so if you don't like them, simply remove them, and you'll never accidentally hit them. Easy as that. I've only got the 2, just like the standard, and customizable as well. So you can program them to any button. You download it, software on your PC, and you can adjust it. You plug this in, detects your controller, and you can change the dead zone and which buttons it's mapped to. So that one there's got 4 back pedals, adjustable triggers, adjustable tension on your analog stick, and adjustable heights on your analog stick. A lot of customization, great grip, great feel, great product. Would recommend. Very expensive though. Final take, the way I would recommend it from worst to best. The worst being the Strikepack. Not user-friendly, not easy to use, not nice materials, I find. Isn't the cheapest option either. Don't think it'll last very long, and I'm not a huge fan of the extendable sticks personally. I wouldn't recommend this as an option. Last place. Coming in next is the DualShock 4 with the Sony made attachments. And this is kind of like a equal second, third place between these two. Because the Xbox and PlayStation, it's kind of apples to oranges because some people prefer this layout, some people prefer this layout. Comes down to a lot of personal preference. The buttons are in very similar positions, have very similar mouse click feel to them. Personally, I like the analog sticks to this one a little bit more, and I like the fact that these are inbuilt. So maybe this one here takes the second, this one here takes the third, but this one here can map up to 3 different buttons, so you don't need to reprogram it between games. So take your pick. Coming in first place, no surprise, is the Pro Gamer controller. Totally customizable, very well built, very good materials, very good product. There's a lot of money, so you got to remember, you don't have to have the top controller to be the top player. Like for example, Swag, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe uses a Control Freak extender. He just plugs his one on top of I believe his is a Scuff, but of a DualShock. Don't have to have fully inbuilt everything. But I find this one here very easy to use. Lots of different textures, grips, heights, trigger faster, makes back pedals help with the movement, has everything you need on it, isn't as inexpensive as a Scuff, and is better than all the other options available on my table, that is. Quickly, I'll just like to cover why I didn't review a Scuff. One, they're big time expensive, and I didn't want to buy one just to review it. Two, while personally I haven't used one, I have heard that they don't have the best reputation for reliability. So I didn't want to go out and buy one, as well as I didn't want to recommend you guys one that potentially could have problems down the line, which I have not heard about the Xbox controller. If you like the content, make sure to hit that like button. Drop down in the comments if you agree with me, disagree with me, any other controllers you use and you like. Make sure to let people know so they can test them out as well. If you like the content, hit that subscribe. It really helps out a lot, as well as there's many more guides, tips and tricks on the way.